Well, we're at the Motor City Comicon again. This is take 2. We met so many cool people, we had to do a second show. You're going to see so many cool people on the show, you may not have time to jot down the information. Simple solution, go to our website, www.cult-pop.com. You'll be able to link up to all the guests on the show there and rewatch the episode. You're going to want to watch this episode of Cult Pop. It's a fun one, so stay tuned. Roaming around the Motor City Comicon still, and I find a legend, Gregory Itzin, and you're going to say, Gregory Itzin, God, I kind of know the name, where do I know? Then you see the face, you say, my God, he's in all the stuff I love. 24, Firefly, Star Trek, and so many, many more. Sir, you're the type of actor that I say is the backbone of acting. You're the type of actor that comes in and plays the characters that are so important and pivotal. They don't have the marquee, but you're the guy that everybody knows and loves and cares about as a character in shows. Tell us a little bit about appearing at a convention like this and having fans recognize you and be so grateful to actually see you and meet you.
It's actually very nice, very dear, and sometimes you forget. Like when I was doing 24, I wasn't aware of the effect it had on the culture at large, and so people would yell at me from cars and things like that. So it's very nice. It's gratifying. It reminds you of the things that you do and have done, and hopefully continue to do. So yeah. I
find with genre actors, you have the opportunity more to actually interact with fans, where a lot of actors don't get feedback unless they read, or in some horrible psychotic incident, you get to actually meet fans that are here to talk about your work.
Yeah.
And want to know about what you're doing and how you're doing.
Yeah.
So that is a valuable thing for you?
Sometimes it is, yeah. I mean, like I said, I'm trying to put that into perspective. Yeah, if you read stuff about you, it's not the same as if actually people are talking to you. And I find that we're much more accessible, especially if you live on TV. People who are movie stars and who only exist there are kind of like, they become TV fodder and stuff like that, for the tabloids. And TV actors are people who you invite into your house every week. So you feel much more comfortable in saying hi to them or telling them how you feel about things. So, I mean, it's an interesting phenomenon, cuts across the board, yeah.
And can I ask you a little bit just about your craft, the difference between appearing on 24 and being a regular for, a good portion of a series or season or longer, or just appearing on an episode? Where do you find your work as an actor is more valuable?
Well, it's more satisfying having a long arc to play, especially if it's a well-written show, and as exciting to work on as 24, because they let me have a lot of freedom in the character that I created. So that's more satisfying because you get to dig deeper and you make money for longer, but also you get to work on your craft on a regular basis. You can only get better if you're paying attention to what you're doing. You can only get better when you're working in front of a camera on a regular basis. If you come in and you have to do an episode of something, you got one hit to tell your story, and that's okay because that's your job. But you don't get as much chance to delve into the character and create. You live there for a while. You don't get a chance to do that. You're there. You work. It's an 8-day shoot. Maybe you work 3, maybe 4 days. That's it. You got to hit it and quit it and get out of Dodge. So it's just a different experience.
Interesting. What's the future for you, sir?
Well, right now, as a matter of fact, I just finished shooting something in Detroit, little indie movie called The Job that Joe Pantoliano was in, and Ron Perlman and a couple of other wonderful actors. That was a couple of days' work here in town for a writer-director who's a friend of mine. And I'm going to go back to Los Angeles and start work on a play. And there's a couple of guys who are writing a web-based series that they approached me about putting my name on, and I said yeah, so I'm involved in that too. So a lot of little irons in the fire, keep them busy.
Excellent. And do you have a website or anything so folks at home can keep track?
I have something that I'm working on called Gregory Itzin Online, so eventually that'll be there. There's already an official website. Somebody stole GregoryItzin.com. It's my official, quote, fan site. I don't know who those people are, but they took it. So, yeah, Gregory Itzin Online eventually. I'm working on things with a friend of mine who does websites right now.
Okay, when you're up and running, we'll be be sure to have a link at our show's site and get it to you. Gregory, I wish you continued success, sir. Thank you for being on the show.
Okay.
Still roaming around Motor City Comicon, and I run into artist extraordinaire Tom Sullivan. Absolute genius at the work of art, and horror art in particular. You're going to take a look at some of his work behind us, and you're going to see some images pop up while we're interviewing, and you're going to say, my God, I love this guy's stuff. I love his work. Tom, thanks so much for being on Cult
Thank
Pop
you.
today.
That's a great introduction. Thank you.
Well, you're an absolute legend. I stumbled across. I was like, Tom, why do I know you? Well, he said, look around you and all the stuff around us. Evil
great.
Dead, all these different monster images that you've created.
I've been a lucky son of a gun.
Yep. Tell us about creating some of the iconic images of movies like Evil Dead and the different images you've created.
Well, Evil Dead, of course, made by a 19-year-old filmmaker named Sam Raimi, who's now king of the world with the success of his Spider-Man movies. And it was everybody's first feature film. Sam had made, I don't know, like 40 or 50 Super 8 movies, including a feature-length comedy. But the Super 8, so it's limited release value. But the guy learned his skills, and I managed to talk myself into a job with him. Sam was very secretive about the script, so I didn't have a whole lot of pre-production time. So most of my special effects were pretty much done the night before, until we got up to the stop-motion finale with all the clay and everything. And that took 3 months.
Okay.
And I did that with Bart Pierce, also a fellow animator. He was more the cameraman, but we split up a lot of the animation as well. But it was amazing. It was amazing creative time, and I look back on it very fondly. It was really grueling, hard work, but I was just coasting on adrenaline the whole time. Because, holy cow, my first movie, and I'm the head of effects and getting to do all these cool things. And thanks to the lack of pre-production time, I got, my way on stuff on the fly, and helped design the finale, which I'm very proud of.
Well, Tom, now all kinds of fans are going to come up to you at a convention like this and remember you from that. But you've been an incredibly busy person in all forms of multimedia. We're going to see all kinds of images pop up of your art that you've been working on.
Great.
You also work for magazines like Cryptic Magazine.
Sure.
And now you're also, in the future now, working on some films.
Yes, I am. And these days, thanks to great conventions, which are amazing places for filmmakers to network, I'm now acting in movies. Did about 4 or 5 so far, and they're starting to hit the screen, like The Absence of Light and splatter movies. Patrick Desmond's really ambitious film, and it has Tom Savini in it, Michael Berryman, Carolyn Monroe, and a whole bunch of Tony Todd, a lot of actors in it. And then the splatter movie, which is a really interesting kind of post-feminist horror film made by Amy Lynn Bess, a great friend of mine. She's a doll. But it's a documentary about a horror film that's being filmed in Pennsylvania, and somebody's going around killing all the cast and crew. And I play myself to give it some documentary weight to it. But a very interesting movie, and with hot lesbo action, too.
Wow.
Go figure.
Hey, now, that sells films.
Exactly.
Now, Tom, if people at home want to kind of catch up with some of this stuff, want to look at some of your art, you've got a great website. Tell the
Yes,
folks
I
home
do.
about that.
I have my website is www.darkageproductions, like the Dark Ages, but darkageproductions.com. It's all one big word. And I've got all my appearances, and there's a gallery and some history and stuff like that there. I'm also on MySpace, at myspace.com, Evil Dead Tom Sullivan. Again, all one word. And please add me as a friend. And lots of updates and clips and behind-the-scenes stuff that's all peppered throughout the pages. But and in conventions, please come and visit me at conventions.
Well, at conventions, it's an absolute delight to look at all the prints you bring. You also are more than happy to sign books, magazines, anything you've done,
Sure.
You'll sign and do a little drawing.
I will sign anything. Plus, I got to keep my props from the Evil Dead films, as part because they couldn't pay me for them. And I have them on display here as well. And please come on down and see how much of these you recognize. But ask for the personal tour and you'll get one.
Well, Tom, an absolute pleasure to meet you. I wish you continued success, and I look
Thank
forward to talking with you more in the future.
Take care. Good luck with your show.
Thank you. I'm walking around the Motor City Comicon still. And look at this beauty I run into. Amy Dolenz, star of Pumpkinhead 2, Witchboard 2, and so many others. Amy, I was making a comment off camera. A beautiful woman like yourself, you had a nice little line, but there's some extraordinary lines. I thought, I'm going to wait in line to meet you before I wait in line to meet some other people.
Oh, you're very sweet. Aw.
Amy, you've done a lot of genre work over the years, and I've asked a lot of people at this convention who have done that. As an actress, is it rewarding? A lot of times you can't meet your fans. You only read in the press what people think about you.
Yeah.
At a convention like this, a lot of fans, I see people walking away with smiles on their faces, so happy to have actually met you. Is that a rewarding thing for you?
It is actually, and until you mentioned that, I really didn't think about it that much. But it's been a lot of fun meeting, people and hearing stories of, oh, I remember this movie or that movie, and you made me happy, or so it is. It's very rewarding.
Now, being kind of a horror and sci-fi queen, do you mind that kind of title that, people are like, wow, I absolutely loved you in Pumpkinhead and all that. You've got this fantastic poster that shows you just, absolutely beautiful and all the stuff you've been in. Do you like being in the horror element, or are you going to try to get away from that, or do you like being in horror and sci-fi?
I mean, horror and sci-fi are the movies that I watch usually, so I think that's how I kind of got into it. I would like to do some other stuff, so I have been, trying to get to do some other stuff. I got out of the business for a while. I was doing plays and all that, so now I'm getting back in the business and keeping my fingers crossed, and I've done a couple of movies here and there, and just, getting back into it.
Amy, for fans at home, do you have a website or anything that you could tell folks about?
Yes, it's amydolenz.com.
Okay.
Easy enough.
And Amy, do you have anything on the horizon that you want to tell folks about that they should know about?
I did do a movie. It's going to go to DVD, and it's called Doomsday 2001.
Okay.
So check it out.
Well, Amy, it's an absolute pleasure meeting you. You're just a delight, and I wish you continued success in the future.
I also have a boutique on eBay called Bluebell Boutique, which sells jewelry that my mother and I make, and vintage jewelry. So if anybody's into jewelry, check it out too.
Well, very cool. Beautiful, talented woman, and also a businesswoman, so fantastic. Thank you so much for being on the show.
Thank you so much.
Okay.
Very nice meeting you.
Well, I've been lucky enough to just run into David Peterson, author of Mouse Guard. David is a fantastic author, illustrator, graphic illustrator. David, congratulations on Mouse Guard and all its success.
Thank you.
Tell us a little bit about Mouse Guard for the folks at home that aren't familiar with the work.
Sure. Mouse Guard is a series of comics about mice who protect other mice in the open territories. Because mice are pretty low on the food chain, they have to build their dwellings hidden and secluded, and it kind of makes them prisoners of their own living quarters. So the Mouse Guard is there to make sure that like shipments of grain can get from one town to another, or dignitaries can do the same, and they also kind of clear paths along. We did a 6-issue miniseries that came out and wrapped up as a hardcover last year, and now we have started the second series, which is entitled Winter. It's about them living through a very savage winter blast, and we're 3 issues into that currently.
Now, David, I've been fortunate enough to interview a lot of authors in the young fiction, young science fiction, and this comic and then the subsequent graphic novel hardcover collection has just won rave reviews and now awards. How is that feedback? How does that make you feel? Is it as gratifying as I would assume to get all the wonderful feedback you have?
Oh, definitely. It's awesome to have fans telling you, and not just fans, but other people in the industry, your peers, people who review stuff. Librarians and teachers have been really positive. I've gotten several emails from teachers telling me that they're using it as part of their lesson plan to teach about mythology. I've talked to librarians who talk about how in fourth grade for boys, reading levels just dip significantly, and that they have programs set up to get boys encouraged in reading to try to help that situation out, and that Mouse Guard is one of their best teaching tools in that regard. So it just warms my heart. I did this because I love comics, and I really wanted to do this, and so for other people to be enjoying it's just it's awesome.
Well, and it's so fantastic because you kick that door down. Comic, now into novels, now into award-winning novels and things like that. So incredible congratulations for that. And then I just wanted to ask a little bit. I've been asking almost everybody that I run into here, at a convention like this, you get an opportunity to meet fans, and that's not often. Most authors don't really have that opportunity. Most actors that I've interviewed don't have that opportunity. What? Give us a few words about what you think about the interaction you're able to have here with fans at a convention like this.
Oh, it's great. It's great. It's you know, if you're just alone in your studio and you're kind of working, you're shut off from the world. It's like something I heard that writers give other starting writers as advice is read. Read and go watch a movie and absorb as much about everything as you can. Don't just read book. Like if you're a mystery writer, don't just read mysteries. Read other stuff. Inevitably it's going to inspire you. It's the same kind of thing. If I just sat in my studio with the earphones on, you know, I don't get connected then. I got to get connected to what people are into, what people like about the series and don't like about the series, and just the interaction of, you know, when you are in your studio and you're frustrated over a page and you just want to tear it up, you know, you think back to that guy at the convention that was so nice and asked for your autograph or talked to you about how his kid liked it and his grandfather liked it, and you think, oh, that's so cool. I guess I won't rip up this page.
Well, I really think that's a great answer, first of all, but I really think what's neat about what you're doing is just what you said there, you ended with. Somebody my age can read it, my grandfather could read it, my son could read it, and everybody can get something from it. But the so important getting the young folks to read, yeah. I really congratulate you for doing that and creating such a great work that's having children read. I'd be remiss if I didn't have you mention up your website so people can keep track of what you're doing, comic appearances like this, convention appearances and such, and what's going on with your comics.
Should be able to catch up everything on mouseguard.net.
Okay. Well, David, absolute pleasure to meet you. I wish you continued success, and I encourage you folks at home, go out and pick up the Mouseguard comics or pick up the collected graphic novel, which is a nice hardcover bound book, and it's absolutely beautiful and award-winning. Well, I'm fortunate enough to be with a comic legend. Al Feldstein, who is just an absolute legend from going back to Mad Magazine to his EC comic days. The man's a genius creator, and I'm just proud to have you on the show today, sir.
Thank you for having me.
Let's talk a little bit about your days at EC Comics and some of the wonderful trend setting.
Oh!
Is it that bad, Al? The wonderful stories that help mold modern comics, I think, in my opinion.
Well, we went on the cutting edge, and we started to do stuff that was a little bit step higher than the ordinary comic book. You know, I came out of the High School of Music and Art and the Art Student League, and I was an artist, and I wanted to be an artist, and I figured I'm going to star in Greenwich Village, so I took a job in the comic book industry to make a living. And I ended up with Bill Gaines, and he was publishing the stuff that his father was publishing. And I kept prodding him. I said, listen, why are we imitating everybody else? And you have to understand, that was the comic book business in those days. There were 600 titles on the stands in the 40s and the 50s, early 50s. And you could become a rich comic book publisher if you could get a contract for newsprint. All you needed was newsprint. What do you publish? You publish what's selling. So you'd copy Simon and Kirby's Romance, or you'd copy John Goldwater's Archie, or you'd copy, and a million did, Superman and everything else that was in costume, you know, and Marvel and the rest. And that's the way it was. And after a while, each of these trends would be overloaded, and they would start to die. And I said to Bill, you know, you're publishing romance, you're publishing crime. Why are we imitating these idiots? Why don't we innovate, let them follow us? And he said, well, like what? And I said, well, I love the old horror comics, horror movies, Dracula, Frankenstein. I love the old radio horror stuff, Witch's Tale, Lights Out, Inner Sanctum. I said, why don't we scare the pants off kids in comics?
Right.
And he says, well, let's try it. So we tried it out in Crime Patrol number whatever it was. I introduced the Crypt Keeper, the Crypt of Terror, and he told a horror story. It was kind of mild. We got worse as the years went by, and that was the beginning.
Well, and the rest, as they say, is history. The Crypt Keeper is a legend to this day. I want to move it on to a lot of fans who would be mad if I don't bring it now to Mad. And I've gone back in history reading Mad. So many people go back to the Mad magazine. Your days at Mad magazine are absolutely history. They're part of the history of comics.
I was very lucky. Harvey Kurtzman was the editor of Mad. I had been doing 7 EC comic books, and Harvey showed up, and he was working for me. And I said to Bill, if you want to expand your publishing empire, give this kid a books, because he's very creative and very bright, and he showed us hysterically funny stuff. And so he gave him first war books. We did 2 adventure war books, 2 Fisted Tales and Frontline Combat. And then he wanted to earn more money. So Bill says, you want to earn more money? I can increase your salary by 50% if you do 1 more magazine. So we had a brainstorming session. We decided that there was no adult humor magazine like we were doing adult sci-fi, horror, shock, racial, religious tolerance stories, things like that. Why don't we do an adult humor magazine? Well, Harvey started out, when we decided on a title and everything, making fun of what we were publishing.
Right.
And I used to say to him, Harvey, there's a whole world out there. There's movies, there's novels, there's politics, there's deceptive packaging, there's planned obsolescence, there's crooked politicians and crooked... So that's how Mad was born. And Harvey, then all of it, when the poop hit the fan, and suddenly EC Comics were causing juvenile delinquency, they had this big hearing. Everybody had an agenda.
Seduction of the innocent.
Well, everybody had an agenda.
Right.
Keith Favell wanted to be president. Frederick Wortham wanted to be the expert on child psychology. There were people that wanted to stick their foot in the door just for censorship of anything.
Right.
There were our fellow publishers that wanted to put us out of business because we were stealing their dimes away from their super characters and everything by publishing horror and sci-fi and Mad. And so it just went along like that, and we got knocked out of business by them because they did adopt a code. So all that Bill had left was Mad, and I was walking the streets. And Harvey got approached by Hugh Hefner to come and do a real fancy Mad type magazine with full color and slick paper, and Harvey couldn't resist. So he took everybody with him, and he went to Trump, and Bill asked me to take over Mad, which was the best thing that ever happened. I took over Mad in 1956. It was selling about 375,000 copies an issue quarterly, if Harvey could make the deadlines. I took the magazine to 2,800,000 copies.
Wow.
With the Poseidon Adventure cover. That was the highest selling one. And the funniest thing about that one is that they didn't even have Alfred E. Newman on the cover. We had his feet sticking out of a life preserver and the ship going down in the background. And we had 250 paperback books. We had annuals. We had foreign editions, 11 foreign editions. We were translated into 10 foreign languages and English.
Well, I know that recently they've just collected on the internet where you can get somehow DVD collection of every episode ever made.
Yeah, I've heard about the Mad DVD set. I haven't gotten one. You'd think they would send me one, since everything there for the first, 250 issues went through my typewriter.
Well, you would think. But Al, it's an absolute pleasure having a legend such as yourself on the show. I want to wish you continued success.
I'm a legend in your mind.
Well, not just my mind. I'm sure all the folks at home watching also agree with me. Mad Magazine is helped most young adults and adults, I think, through adulthood and some of the trying times.
I just have to tell you that right now, I live on a ranch in Montana, that ranch that Alfred built, and I paint. I paint landscapes, western, wildlife. You can see my stuff at alfeldstein.com.
And we'll have that linked up throughout the show and on our website. Sir, it's been an absolute pleasure. We thank you for being on the show. I'm with comic legend Arthur Sudam, and Arthur is just an absolute legend in comics. You see before you Marvel Zombies he's done, and so many covers from Army of Darkness, every Marvel title he's asked to do special stuff, just an artist legend. And Arthur, thank you so much for being on the show today. I guess basically one of the first things I want to ask is, for you being at a convention like this and having lines and lines of people, hundreds of people wait in line, how rewarding is that for you?
It's really nice, because I've been working in the business for a long time, but working on very low profile projects for very small companies that people never read, basically. So doing some work for companies that actually, some projects that actually get some attention, it's great. So it's real nice, It's good.
Well, with Marvel Zombies, that obviously brought your skill and genius to work. The perfect mesh of the perfect artist for the perfect work. And you're working with that book, and then your name's just out there. Now we see you doing every kind of cover and every kind of work. What are some of your prideful works out there? What are some of the most favorite works you've ever worked on?
My favorite jobs that I've worked on. Well, Marvel Zombies is for sure at the top of the list. That was a lot of fun for me. In getting into art right from the beginning, one of the things I really had a great interest in was anatomy and working on anatomical drawings. I was very big fan of the anatomical studies of Leonardo da Vinci and Michelangelo and Raphael. So that's kind of what got me into drawing right from the get-go. And then later on, some years later, I got to actually work in one of the medical universities as an artist. During the day, they would have rooms full of corpses that were there for the medical students, and in the evening they would turn them over to the artists to study with. So I actually got to do a lot of work with corpses. So that's one of the things that really helped me with the Marvel Zombies. So that is one of my all-time favorite series. I really like working on this. I like working on painting Red Sonja for the for Dynamic Forces as well. Those are two projects that I'm very hot on working on.
Those are absolutely beautiful. Well, I'll tell you what, I could talk with you for hours, but you've got a line of about 100 people here to talk to you today.
Talk some more, well, you got me now. Give me why you got me.
Hey, give us. I'll tell you what I will do.
Okay.
Give us your website so the folks at home can learn everything there is about you, what works you got coming out, and how to contact you and whatnot.
Okay. Well, my wife put up a website, but I've never seen it. So I'm going to guess at what it is. I'm going to guess it's arthursadam.com, but I'm only guessing.
Okay, well, we'll make sure we have your correct website posted on the show and on the website. Arthur, just an absolute pleasure. Thank you for being on the show. Thank you. Well, that wraps up the second episode for the Motor City Comicon. We had a great time, 2 episodes worth of guests and 2 episodes worth of fun. As always, I remind you, if you didn't catch anything, go to the website, www.cult-pop.com. You can rewatch the entire show, and you can link up to all the guests. We had a great time bringing it to you. I hope you had a good time watching it. Stay tuned, and next time, we'll bring you even more cool guests in science fiction, horror, comics, and everything.